In my research, I work on a pressing topic which is about gender, racial, class and belief justice in Europe and North America. So my contention is that in academia, people have done an amazing job at diagnosing what's wrong with the society, what's hurting people. But my contention is, so what's the next step? When do we start talking about solutions, alternatives, ways of doing things differently? My intention since I embarked on this journey in 2009 was to make my work accessible and useful, of practical use for people who actually do the proper work on the ground. As an individual, I cannot change society, but at least I can do my little bit. And my little bit means through my publications, through sharing my platform, trying to bring people and make their voice heard, people who actually do the work of making a better society. Hello and welcome. I am William, Research Fellow in Sociology at the University of Warwick in the UK. And today I wanted to share with you how images, beyond helping people understanding complex topics of research, can help us better understand society. And for this, I decided to co-create some of the outputs of my research with the people I meet on the field. This is called action research. So it's about writing scripts together, finding ideas together, imagining things together. Because I deeply think that on one end, academics are, fair enough, they're experts by training, meaning that they become experts after having studied for years on a very specific topic. However, you have got people who become experts not because they've studied anything, but because they have experienced the very same issues researchers have been studying, and they have experienced them in their personal lives and on a daily basis. We've got experts by training and experts by experience, and this is what I think of people who work at the grassroots. I see the researcher as a bridge between a universe of knowledge which is not necessarily accessible for everyone, and people who actually work at improving society. I like to say diverting power from the ivory tower. And on my end, I try to do it with visual arts. Of course, I'm far from being the only one or even the first one doing it. If you're into arts, you probably heard of Amalia Ullmann. So she's an artist, but as a research project, she designed a fake Instagram account where she embodied various different personas to prove that people will respond the more your online persona abides by mainstream stereotypes. Another person I really respect and admire a lot is Professor Souad Abdulkhabir from University of Michigan. She is an anthropologist, but also she uses performance anthropology. She is a live performance artist. So for her research project Muslim Cool, besides the book, she's got a one-woman show, and her interactions with her audience, so not only she embodies the findings of her research on stage, but the conversations she has with her audience helps refining her research. In 2006, I was 20 and I was studying for my undergrad in chemistry. Yes, fundamental chemistry, that was the title. And at the same time, the same year, my dad allowed me to play with his film camera, and on which I found this mode called M for manual mode. And I had time, so I decided to undertake a training in photography, and which was offered through my university with a professional photographer. And things started to get really interesting because I just wanted to take better holiday pictures. Basically, every week we would take pictures on our end, whatever pictures, and show them to our photography professor at the end of the week. And he would comment on them. So all of the students would say things such as, "Oh, I really like your pictures. Maybe you could have taken from this angle, maybe try this, try that." But he would make a specific point at finding any detail in your pictures to ruin them, and saying things, "Oh, you left a bit of shadow here, your picture is completely rubbish, like, oh, you cut the sky here, don't call yourself a photographer, and this kind of comment. So some students would like go back home in tears, and after 2 years, I have no idea how I stayed, and I just was frustrated because in 2 years I haven't been able to take a single picture that would keep him silent. So in 2008, on a whim, because I guess I wanted to prove myself, I applied for a competitive public grant for undertaking my first photographic documentary, which unexpectedly, I had such a low esteem about the quality of my pictures, I won. That was quite a sum, 8,000 euros at the time, from the Ministry of Sports in France. And I decided to go to French Guiana in South America to do an anthropological documentary about the Bushinengue people in French Guiana, and that part is also very, very important. And what's interesting about French Guiana is you've heard about British Guiana, which got its independence, Suriname, Dutch colony, which got its independence, but French Guiana still nowadays is a French colony, and was a French colony, it stayed a French colony. And this is a country, I mean, it's part of France, a proper part of France, where back in 2008 at least, I met with GPs, white GPs who refused visits from black people. I interviewed teachers, white teachers, who would say about black people that, you know, don't bother, they're just like thieves and robbers, and if they live in poverty, it's just for people to take pity on them. They would openly say these kind of things to me. So I had this feeling that although everything looked like France, except the Amazonian forest, well, it's as if people's mentality had stopped 300 years ago. But then I realized something very important, is that these people were allowing themselves to say these kind of things to me, but they felt like they could trust me because we share the same skin color. And this is when I realized, while I was outraged the situation, the racism in French Guiana, I was able to navigate these kind of spaces and even use the system to my advantage. But then, you know, with great power comes responsibility, and I was thinking, what can I do with this position I have, seeing the things I've seen and heard the things I've heard? And well, what can you do when you're an undergraduate student in chemistry, more so I organized exhibitions for schools and universities around Paris with the money from this grant, and encourage students to have like a conversation, reflect on these issues. What can you do? I also wrote with a local organization a report sent to the MP for French Guiana. Not sure I did anything, but still, I was a bit frustrated because I wanted to find like solutions to this problem. You know, chemistry mentality, problem, solution. And obviously the world doesn't work like this. So I decided to, once I got my undergrad in chemistry, to switch to sociology. And this because not only I wanted to understand the causes and why do people like say these kind of things, behave like that, and what can be the possible solutions, but at the same time, I was well aware that not only sociology would bring me to like some jobs closer to people's concern, but at the same time, well, at the time at least, you needed, some people are only willing to listen to other people only if they have this piece of paper and that puts doctor in front of their name. Well, that was back in the days. I'm not sure it's still the case, but that was my intention back then. Later down the road, I've produced some other photographic documentary, including one on survivors of acid attacks in India, Shearer's Hangout, which was acquired by the French equivalent of the National Geographic, which was a big milestone for me. And naturally, when cameras started recording videos, then I switched to video, and I undertook, after crowdfunding and getting some public funding, my very first documentary about Polish Muslims, which is available freely on YouTube. Just like Google it, and actually the link is in the description. And which was very unexpected fate, because so far it has amassed like around maybe 200,000 views in total. I managed to get it premiered at the Polish Embassy in London, and Later on, I experimented with fiction. 2015, A Strange Perfume of Jasmine, exploring the issue of like divorce and depression and spirituality, and try to convey the things I was seeing and observing through my research through these medium. Later on, this is where things got interesting, because for my current research project, I partnered with a media outlet, the Muslim Vibe, to produce a series of videos trying to explain in 10 minutes topics for which people write whole books about it, like neoliberalism, artificial intelligence, politics, masculinity, acceptance and validation. It was an interesting project because it totaled something like 60,000 views, and the reactions of the people were the most interesting part, especially for the first masculinity video I produced. People were really upset because among the experts I featured a professor of sociology who happens to be a woman, and people who were not happy to see a woman explaining things about men and masculinity. Well, I took the lesson for the video about whiteness and only featured white people on this one, and the message was very simple. Like, you know, if you've seen Spider-Man, you would like maybe like it would sound familiar. With white privilege comes great responsibility. That's basically it, you know. And people got really upset and like telling the participants that, yeah, you're just like a bunch of self-hating white people. However, something struck me is that in the comments, people were less commenting about the video or the content or even the message, but more about their own experiences, saying things such as, I'm white, but I have struggled. I'm a man, but I have struggled. And this is when I realized that these videos had a very strong potential for being a barometer about what people want to see expressed or talk about. And there is a lot of pain, you realize, lots of issues that have been like hurting people, and them desperately seeking a way to talk about it or just feel heard. So it has led me to try to understand how should I tailor my videos so the message could speak to like a wider audience and just not people who were more or less aware of what's going on in society. But I'm not sure this question has an answer. Can you actually produce a video or a message in whatever form that would talk the same way to most people? Even if, you know, if like religious text, people can interpret this like in so many different ways. So I'm not sure there is a definite answer, but still I was very curious about experimenting, and this is where comes the big video experiment. In 2018, don't judge me, I was still using Facebook and I had something like 200 friends, and I would be very lucky if anything I would share would get something around 20 likes. However, one video we made with friends and that we published at some point got an insanely unexpected result. When I checked it 2 days later, it had something like 200,000 views. Some media outlets reshared it, people wrote blog articles about it, and like the numbers were getting crazy, and I was wondering what the hell was going on. And of course, not all of the coverage was positive. The video was about like lots of different topics, so people got confused. But however, something clicked, and I realized that what people were saying was less about the video than about themselves. So with some friends, we imagined a fiction, a science fiction piece, a dystopia really, where we imagined social media influencers as humanoid robots, which were designed by tech companies, consumer brands and governments equipped with AI to tell us lowly consumers how we should look, speak and behave. Well, it's not totally fictional because we've got a huge body of research studying like how consumerism and politics and tech has been historically used for the control of certain demographics. But hey, we wanted to talk about consumerism. We wanted to talk about the damages of the fast fashion industry. We wanted to talk about the regulation of religious visibility and cultural visibility by governments. and the consequences of like our consumer habits on the environment and workers' rights. And of course, people got confused. Lots of people, well, understood the key message of the video, but still, some people didn't understand what was the video about and how they should feel about it. Some people thought, like, had a very superficial reading and thought it was about influencers who are only the end product, I would say, of this chain of events. Some other part of the audience thought it was a religious video because we featured a woman wearing the hijab, and they thought it was about how to tie your hijab properly and correctly for remaining modest. And eventually you've got lots of female commenters who argue that fair enough, but you should do a video about men because it is men really who control this whole industry and like how women should look and so on, which is a fair point. So I wouldn't say there is like right or wrong reading, because, you know, I believe that whatever work we put out, whether it's like academic or scientific work or it is art, it is a two-way process where you have what the writer, the researcher or the artist puts out, how it was intended, and then the piece of work ultimately is also shaped by the way it's received by the audience and what people make of it. And it's constantly evolving because we see, like, you know, works that are like centuries old being interpreted through like different perspectives with time. It showed me that it's very difficult to make a message that would speak to a broad audience. And even if you have the numbers, we had like something like 200,000 views in the lapse of a few days, which is a nice number, you know, for someone who was accustomed to only like 20 likes. But the question is, did this video actually change people's mind? Did it encourage people to think differently, to change their habits, or even to act upon what's going on? And these are questions we may never find the answer, because it's been like, you know, thrown on the internet to like literally like thousands of people, with everyone has a different interpretation of the video, and it may have not impacted at all. There's no way of knowing except maybe by chance. So I decided, and this is, I think, the approach I kind of like more, and at least at the present time, is try now to scale down, and instead of focusing on numbers and impact, trying to focus on quality, meaning not a huge view count, but more focusing on something that will really speak to viewers, something of quality. So for my current research project, I undertook what people would call an art film, but it's really a documentary, a series of portraits of the people I've met on the field. And it's very contemplative, it's very slow-paced, with lots of nature shots. And when I showed it to some people, something completely unexpected happened. It made some people in my audience cry, and I never thought that my works could produce such effect, because it was able to resonate with them, not only the painful and difficult issues that were addressed in this video, but at the same time, what I wanted to show, that there is hope, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and like seeing that it produced such a strong impact on people, it made me, you know, it's maybe one of the works that has the least amount of views. It's available on Vimeo if you're curious, but at the same time, it's maybe the work I'm the most proud of, because I feel it has directly spoken to people. So when I talk about visual performance sociology, I would say it's a different way of engaging in a dialogue with your audience and the participants of your research, not only a way of giving back and explaining, translating the complex findings of your research to a wider audience, which is not necessarily specialized in your field, but at the same time, it's a way of improving yourselves, like getting feedback on your work, beyond and outside of the ivory tower. And you interact, you collaborate with people you have been doing research with. It is a way also of giving back, in a way, where lots of research works are not returned to the people who were like interviewed or like in the field with no practical solutions. And this is a way of like concretely, and also it gives a platform for you to invite them in the conversation. As we are reaching the end of this video sharing my experiences, a few takeaways. And the first thing is, one lesson I would say I've taken is instead of chasing numbers and impact, try to remember that these ultimately are not in our control. The best and only thing we can do is to plant seeds, and the rest is basically not up to us. Some seeds will grow, some may never do, and some will grow right now and some others may grow much later. But this is the only thing we have proper control on it. And one testimony that I would say proved to myself that it works, and I need to believe in that, is I still have people who make the effort of writing me emails after seeing videos I made like 8 years ago, saying, yeah, thank you, it has really changed the way I see things. And I'm like, when I see the email, I'm like, what the hell, I've made this video 8 years ago, why are you like messaging me now? But then, you know, I'm grateful, because it shows me that, you know, even if you put your work out and nobody like sees it now, it can like take off, it can like change like even one person's life maybe later. You never know. We have absolutely no idea. We cannot know for certain. But what counts is planting the seeds. The second thing is, no matter how you tailor your message, or even you present yourself, or who you are, people will always find things to say about you and against you. And no matter how you change your message, or like who you are, how you present yourself, there's always a bunch of people who are going to be upset. The key thing, however, is to make a clear difference between people who are just projecting maybe some things that hurt them, their pain, gratuitously, because they don't know how to express their frustrations and their pain. And on the other end, people who want to see you improving and see your content improving, and will take the time to provide constructive criticism. For me, for a younger self who was chasing impact and was very keen on making my work viewed by as many people as possible, things are very simple. If you have checked your intentions, if you have consulted people around you, if you have tried to understand the landscape you're navigating in, and you've made sure that your work is actually helping people, even a few, then just carry on, even if it's small steps. Because for those of you who might be a bit spiritual, there is a saying that I like to hang on, is that even if you make a difference for one person, it's as great as if you've made a difference for the whole of humanity. And that's just powerful. We're reaching the end of this video. Thank you so much for your attention. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and until next time.